our point of view, from a Google point of view, it's skills that children really need. We need to get our children programming and coding as much as possible. If you think of the world that we live in, almost everything that you do relates to computers in one form or another. And often the children don't actually know what's happening behind what they're working on.
The world we live in is a mobile-first, cloud-first world. There are more people on the planet that have access to technology and mobile phones than they do to clean drinking water. Our kids in primary school today are studying and learning content for jobs that are not yet invented. This technology-enabled future. And we need to ensure that the young people of today, we give them the skills. You know, there's a nice African saying that says, when's the best time to plant a tree? 20 years ago. When's the second best time to plant a tree? Today. So we need to start ensuring that we give the kids and the young people of this country an opportunity to be ready going forward. And we need to start today. And what we start in schools, the way we think about it at Microsoft, is only one step of the problem, you know. It's an ecosystem. As the kids come out of school, they're going to find jobs. So, you know, we have probably today an unskilled, unemployed problem of what, 3.5 million young people not in jobs. Tomorrow we don't really have a skilled unemployed problem. Because that doesn't help either. So we need to be looking at bridging the gap from school into universities, out of school youth, those that don't get the opportunity to go to university, and you know, the FET colleges and everything else that goes. It's an ecosystem. Because once they finish at university, they can't also not have a job. Right? So how do we help with entrepreneurship? We know when we look at the National Development Plan, how that aligns and how we want to create jobs going forward. So for us, the way we think about it is an ecosystem. It's a complex problem, it needs many partners, it takes various shapes.
Coding is not just about writing code. It's not just about what appears on this particular screen or any of the others we might use every day. It's about how do I actually take a real world problem, conceptualize it, and then reduce it to its key components and make something that helps me solve that real world problem. That's about complex problem solving. And the more skills that we can introduce into schools, into universities, that help people understand how to solve complex problems, because there's no place like South Africa for complex problems, let's face it. I think that's a great thing. So it's not just about the code, it's about all of the other things that the code inspires. And I think that's really why these sorts of programs are so important, is because they introduce people to ideas that they wouldn't necessarily have had they not been involved in programs like this, which is why I'm so excited to be part of it. Of course, Google, what I'd like to see is that the organizations they work for are South African organizations, South African IT businesses that are fueled by South African brainpower in South Africa, which is equally as important, so that we can actually reap the benefits here. So thank you very much for being such a driver for this program. Lindiwe, you were describing this morning all of the different things you had to do, all of the people you had to corral to make this thing happen. I think without people with that kind of without that kind of drive and entrepreneurial spirit, these things are very difficult to do. So huge credit to you for making this happen, for bringing us all in the room together, and for persevering, making all of those phone calls. Thank you so much for pushing us into this position. We're very happy to support this.
National program that will drive all of us as a country, because we do believe that ICTs are going to be a major game changer. Major, I mean, we're really banking lots of hopes on it, having lots of difficulties on the other end. We're not saying it's the silver bullet, but we think it's a very important bullet. And on the teachers, fortunately, a generation is exiting, and I was saying, which is quite interesting. I mean, the president, at some stage, the deputy president was saying, what are we going to do? I was saying, no, President, I won't tell my equals of my age group to say there's a new generation of young, active, very enlightened people entering the sector. And I said to him, there's just a new vibe that is there, which gives me great hope And it's also young people who take easy to changes, to development. I've seen them. So I really begin to have 20 years down the line an entry of very young teachers into the profession. And it's for us to receive them with now really new skills that we require from them. We're working with universities to make sure that it should be part of the qualification, that when teachers qualify from universities, they must come with some basic skills into the sector, so that it's not a refresher course. It becomes really part of their training to say, to be a teacher, you need to have the following skills. So I'm very excited to be here, looking forward to the partnerships. The learners will teach us also a thing or two. We've tried in some rural schools to have computer labs, and when I go and visit them 6 months down the line, I find these young ones who are reminding the teachers, no, ma'am, for it to work, you're supposed to have pressed here. That's why you have a problem. So, because indeed, I mean, I'm not surprised because at home, sometimes I just can't even sort out my TV. I have to phone my kids who are older, wherever they are with friends, to say, I'm stuck. There's this partition, what is that I'm supposed to do? And in our rural schools, we find it's this 10-year-olds, 9-year-olds who say, no, ma'am. Or there's a clever one at the back who says, we train the teachers first, then they train the learners, and the learners end up being advanced. Because they're young, they're in Africans, lastig. They're young and they touch everything, and they really get to understand the programs much more better than the teachers, and discover things teachers that have not really been trained on. Because I mean, at my age, I do what I know. I mean, very cautious, because that's also part of being adult and responsible, is to be very cautious and not press things so that you break them. But the young ones, really, part of growing and being naughty, and that they press everything around, and they end up really being more advanced than their teachers. So I think it's a very exciting world where ourselves and learners will learn along. And yeah, so thanks for inviting me, and again, thanks for really the leadership of these two great organizations joining us. And yeah, so looking forward to working with you. And she will.
Now I forgot it. But I would like to thank the Minister and the CEO of both Google and Microsoft. I'm so happy that you are here. And everybody that is here, and I'm happy to see Mobile arrive, because I was actually looking at the door to see if she's going to walk in. Because as I said, when we started Africa Teen Geeks, I asked for a meeting with Mr. Tonyati, who was the CEO of Microsoft at the time, together with Mobile, who was there, and I went and I said, this is what I want to do. Do you think it's going to work? And they spent that hour basically fixing my presentation and my plan, that I thought I had everything in place, and they're telling me, you know, this is how you have to go. And Mr. Nyati has been there all the time ever since then. I'm sending him a text, and he always responds, and so it's really great. Sometimes, you know, as young people, we hear leaders, they come and they tell you, we're here for you, you can come to us, and then you reach out to them, they're quiet, you know, you don't get that. So it's really been great to see leaders that have really been there and been helping us, so that at least it also inspires me, but also inspires a lot of the kids that I go and I talk to at the school. You know, doing Africa Teen Geeks, you know, at the beginning, it's been one of the programs for me that is really, 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 really personal. So every time when I do, my heart and everything is in there. Zoaib was asking me, how do I make time for everything? And that's because, you know, if your heart isn't, you do make time for things that matter. And for me, this has really been one of those programs that matters a lot. And I just want to thank the companies that have supported us. UNISA, represented by Adrian Day, Microsoft, of course, and Google, and Roger Wilco that designed our beautiful website, and Samsung that actually donated a classroom for us in Alexandra, so that we can be able now to reach the kids that don't have computer labs at schools. Now they can be able to go to the center and learn. So they're not here, but I also just wanted to say thank you to them. And Anglo Ashanti that is also going to be building us also a center in Alexandra as well, so that we can be able to have to reach as many young people as possible. So I just wanted to say thank you to everybody, and also to say, you know, like when I started my master's at Columbia University this September, and when I was there, each and every speaker that came, kept on telling us about how everybody has to be in Africa. Everybody has to be, if you're not in Africa, because it's this space, we are where China and India was 20 years ago, so you need to be in Africa so that your business can grow. And as I was sitting there, being the only African, I was actually an expert even on photos in Burundi. So it was really, but for me, it was about, we can't be then, be passive participant in that. And I think if we can help our kids so that they can be ready. I love this quote that says, actually, opportunity dances with those that are already at the dance floor. And we need to make sure that we can help our kids so that they can be at the dance floor when this big, African boom that everybody talks about. So that we don't see to the point where, as much as I love Google, as much as I love Microsoft, but they're not from here. So we need to start and now help our kids so that they can be the companies, the next Google and the next Microsoft that is homegrown, that is African grown. So we don't, as much as we need to work together, it's a global economy, but we need to start raising kids that thinks bigger than, one day I want to grow up and I want to work for Microsoft, I want to work for Google. We need to have kids that grow up and say, I want to be my own boss. I want to create a company that will be bigger than Microsoft and bigger than Google. And if we go there and inspire them to tell them it is possible. What I love about technology is that it's one of the businesses that really don't require a lot of funding to start. You work hard, it's just about, you can spend 100 hours on your computer and trying to figure out that code, but to get it started, you don't need anybody to give you money. And it's all about that hard work. But if you can instill that kind of hard work, that kind of dedication to the kids while they're still young, because now we have a lot of the kids now, we hear that it's 0.9% of our kids actually take ICT in matric because they think it's hard. But I've got an 8-year-old girl that can code. So nobody can tell her that actually ICT is hard. And as she grows up, these are the kids that will be going and actually creating the skills that we need so that we don't have those two guys that everybody talks about, African innovators. We talk about Mark Shuttleworth and the guy, the SpaceX guy. Those are the only people that we can say, those are the names. But we need to have more. If you think about it, we've got 1 billion people in Africa, but if you talk about successful entrepreneurs, you just have to think Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk, and then the names just disappear because there's nobody else. And I really hope that we can instill that for them as a young. When we did the Festival of Code, which was sponsored by Microsoft, thank you for that, we had 100 kids coming from different schools, and we had a guy from Facebook talking to them, and I had this 14-year-old boy saying to him he's got this great idea and he wants to meet with Mark Zuckerberg. So he was like, you can tell me your ideas. He was like, no, I don't trust you. You know the guy with the money. This is very confidential and I want to speak to Mark. I was sitting there, I was so proud, because we sit there and you're thinking, a lot of our kids would never have thought like that before. But if you have a child that thinks that, one day I can sit at the table with Mark Zuckerberg, that's really what we want to instill. That's what we want to instill in our kids. So I thank you very much, Minister, and Zoaib and Luke for being here. And we're hoping that we can really scale this and get as many NGOs as possible. We're knocking on doors, because if you can have the NGOs that are in the township also doing this and just helping them and so that we can, it's not something that can be done by one person, but if you can just bring all of them so that they can also go out there and get this in the communities. So I'm really very, very happy, and thank you.